You can summarize what's going on and what 5G is introducing with 5 major shifts. And all those 5 shifts could be summarized with a single character, and. If you think about it, 4G was very much a world that was driven about consumers and the consumers in focus. With 5G, we're expanding from 4G to also serve businesses and governments, not only serving them, but as we define the solution, we're using requirements from the businesses and governments to shape what 5G would look like. Second, 4G was very much about mobile broadband in our pockets to a smartphone. And as for all previous mobile generations, fixed wireless access or the ability to deploy fixed broadband using wireless radio technology was typically something that's come very far down the road after 3, 4, or 5 years. For 5G, we see that mobile broadband is getting enhanced and fixed wireless is introduced pretty much in tandem with mobile broadband. So delivering a platform for both fixed and mobile broadband at the same time. Third, for 4G, we used one universal type of connectivity so that was equal for all types of services. For 5G, we have a bigger ambition. We're allowing 5G to serve both business-critical application and mission-critical applications. So it's not only the same type of connectivity for all services, but we're adding to the capabilities to be able to serve a broader spectrum. The fourth difference is that 4G was very much made for public networks. It was public networks served by large towers, and that was the big thing that we were doing. For 5G, in addition to serving public networks, we're also serving private networks and public-private hybrids. This will allow us to build out 5G networks with cellular technology, not only for the applications we've been using in the past, but also for private and hybrid needs. And fifth, 4G was rolled out first in urban and suburban areas, and then gradually rippled out and penetrated the whole mobile grid. And it was kind of accepted that 4G could come very much later if you were living in the countryside or rural areas, to the point where not all rural areas have 4G still, 10 years after the introduction. I think for 5G, the mentality and mindset is a little bit different. We want to do urban and suburban and rural areas. And 5G is such a powerful technology for closing the digital divide that we can start seeing it at the 21st century farm roads, something that reach out to connect all parts of the economy. What I wanted to get across with this little video is that 5G is not just another G. It's a technology that can combine a number of different things. And summarize very much what 5G is all about. When it comes to users, when it comes to type of broadband, when it comes to the connectivity, how we're building the network and where we're building them. Thank you very much. 5G is not the only thing that's happening around us. There's a number of adjacent technologies that's very much part of the same puzzle. If you think about 5G, Edge, IoT, artificial intelligence, and augmented and virtual reality, 5G is a very, very powerful network technology which increases the capacity both upstream and downstream. It reduces the latency to the point where we can almost see 5G as capable as wires, with the flexibility of wireless. Edge computing comes into the same picture here because if you think about 4G today, we have smartphones, we have 4G networks, and we have clouds which are very centralized. Edge computing allows performance-critical applications that today reside in the cloud to move closer to the users. It also allows applications that today are on premises and never been outsourced to the cloud or moved to the cloud to move to the edge. And this creates a very powerful combo because you got the 5G network, you got the very powerful capabilities plus network slicing, so we can carve out certain elements of it, and we can serve it from the certain performance-critical applications from the edge. IoT is very much about expanding the potential for what we connect, not just the classical devices like a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet, but going on way beyond that, both upwards and downwards in the application space. Some of these applications are already in volume mature and in volume market today. I'm thinking about massive IoT, I'm thinking about broadband IoT, the two things that you can build on today's technology and to a large extent serve with 4G with improvements when you get to 5G. Then you've got two new applications, which is critical IoT and industry automation IoT, which are not really introduced yet in large scale because they're relying on 5G to be enabled, and they're also relying on some of the more advanced standards. The fourth element here is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence play an important role in two arenas here. First, as a tool to operate the networks more efficiently. We know that the complexity that is increasing of the network at the same time as we're asking for more and more dynamic handling of the network drives the need for artificial intelligence, both in the network itself and around the network. We also see that artificial intelligence is one of the key applications we're going to serve because more and more things are becoming dependent on artificial intelligence and not everything is kept in the device itself. Sometimes it's connected to capabilities outside of the network in the edge. The last bit is augmented and virtual reality. I see that as the tool for transfer knowledge going forward and doing it in real time. With AR and VR capabilities, you can say that we have a journey ahead of us, which is the biggest one we've seen for knowledge transfer. I grew up with handbooks and cookbooks and manuals and things like that as a source of knowledge. My daughter thinks those ones are really old school. She uses YouTube, find things immediately, and say, hey Dad, you still haven't found your book. I'm already ready to go. Her children most likely laugh at her and say, hey, why didn't you just put on glasses and say instructions please, and ask for access to knowledge in real time when you need it without having to learn a lot of things in the past. These 5 things, 5G, edge, IoT, artificial intelligence, and augmented and virtual reality are all part of the same puzzle, and I think you should view them as part of that. In the 5G world, there's 6 different continents. I'm going to try to give you a perspective of what these continents are and how they're different. First, we have enhanced mobile broadband, pretty much targeting the smartphones that you're so very familiar with. And the difference we want to make there is higher video qualities to that device. We also wanting to be able to serve it with streaming of gaming applications, so games that don't require a desktop PC or a game console, but can be streamed directly to a mobile device. And third, augmented reality and virtual reality, either integrated with your smartphone or as standalone devices, but standalone devices where we can untether them, so cut the wire to the device that they're attached to today. Fixed wireless access, the ability to build broadband over wireless can be done in a couple of different ways. One is to put a modem outside of the house and an antenna on the roof. Second, you can put the modem inside the house and antenna in the window. And third, you can have it a pocket router moving around with you. Fixed wireless access is an exciting opportunity where you don't have outside of the fiber grid, both for businesses and for residential users. And businesses, obviously the small and medium ones, but also branch offices of large companies. These 2 segments are the foundation for 5G. If we look on top of that, we have 4 different IoT segments. Massive IoT, which is small traffic volumes, small revenues, and devices which don't consume a whole lot of battery. That is introduced right now with Cat M1 and Airband IoT. Second, you got Broadband Iot. Broadband Iot is things that you can use the same technology as you're using in a smartphone today, but with the application, perhaps it's like my watch here, that it's a little bit less traffic, a little bit less revenues, but pretty much something that you can call today. These 2 segments are mass markets today and in full swing. Then you've got 2 new segments which are enabled by 5G and enabled by the more advanced standards of 5G. I'm thinking about critical IoT and industry automation IoT. Critical IoT typically reach outside, serving applications like self-driving cars and the electricity grid, where you need to have wide area coverage. Industry automation IoT is going into more specific areas. Like this video is recorded in Ericsson Smart 5G factory, so in a factory or a warehouse or something where you trying to apply the applications for very specific business needs. These six different continents represent the world of 5G, and look at these 6 areas when you're trying to understand where does a use case for a certain industry rely, and when are we likely to be able to pull it off. So 5G offer a number of unique capabilities, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to keep track of them. Speed, latency, velocity, positioning accuracy. I think it's easiest for you if you try to think of them as in a 3x3 matrix. The foundation is a business and architecture foundation. What we have there is first the cellular DNA. I'm thinking about security, reliability, and availability, the reasons why you pick a cellular technology in the first place. Second is network agility. The fact that cellular network today is based on software and upgraded so frequently so it can evolve together with applications. And the third is business model innovation. We come from a heritage where the business model was essentially one of two, a bucket of data or unlimited, but we're now seeing a number of different transitions taking place. First was network slicing, where we slice up the network for certain purposes. Second is the build out of private and hybrid networks, where cellular technology has not been used in the past. And third, about new parameters other than monetization of data volumes that are going to be used. These 3 is the foundation. If you move up one level, you have the flagship capabilities. It's data rates, so being very fast to users and from users. The speed to you is going to be used very much for delivery of more advanced video in any shape and form. And with 77% being projected to be video traffic in these networks, that is the obvious candidate. The upstream is perhaps more relevant when you're going to have cameras that's sending video the other way, or when you're having a lot of data generated somewhere that need to be offloaded to the edge pretty quick. The second thing is low latency. Low latency allows us to support both latency-sensitive application, but also allow us to offload some of the compute and memory from the device up to the edge. And with a low latency in between, that is what makes it possible. And the third element in the flagship capability is very much about data density, the fact that we're making a 10x increase of how many devices you can support in a specific geographical area. If you move up to the top, to the icing of the cake, you have other things like positioning accuracy, that we very, very accurately can position where a thing is, and not only through assistance of Wi-Fi and GPS. We can do it without any of those ones, use it both indoors and outdoors. Second, we have the energy efficiency, both on the device side, so allowing devices to consume a lot less energy, so taking down the battery consumption there, but also breaking the energy curve in the network so it doesn't just increase and increase as we move to higher and higher capacities. The last bit is velocity or mobility, the fact that we can support devices that moves beyond 300 miles per hour. You might ask, what does that really make a difference? Well, it's give us more margins for things that are moving on the ground, like cars. And when we look at things that are moving up in the air, it allows us to support those applications in a good way. These 9 things is what I think you should have in your mind when thinking about what make 5G different. The ecosystem around 5G is perhaps best described if we look at it as an economic system, which is a powerful vehicle for the economy. In 4G, in very simple terms, you can say it was smartphones, it was connectivity in the networks, and it was applications. But if we start peeling the onions on that, there's a number of different things going on underneath. Obviously, there are service providers. There are network technology providers like Ericsson. There's smartphone providers, people doing the actual phones, as also the underlying smartphone platforms. We have the cloud that's playing a key role, that's hosting all the applications. We have advertising, where mobile advertising has been a very strong vehicle for growth of the digital advertising industry. And then we have things like IP and optical connectivity to tie it all together. In this part of the equation, we have a number of different winners for 4G that now are very keen to being transforming themselves to 5G. Not only the obvious ones that I described here, but also the underlying technology components. And if you're following the discussions right now, you know that the shortage of technology is something affecting every single industry, and the fact that they're an integrated part of our industry here as well. As we move forward to 5G, it's not only a conversation about how do we transform the 4G winners to 5G leaders, it's also where will we find the new 5G leaders, the new type of providers of networks, either if you build a greenfield network or if you build a private network. New types of integration and software capabilities coming into the picture. We're having the passive infrastructure for the cloud and fiber moving closer and closer to subscribers. We most be looking at new unicorns on the device side. Who will be the new device unicorn that's going to pop up around 5G? I think we've talked about some of the technologies in the past that most likely going to be enablers, but we don't necessarily see all those companies yet. Software unicorns. Who are the people that come up with the major software innovations and add that to the picture here? So I think it's fair to say that the 5G ecosystem goes significantly further out than what we did see the 4G ecosystem go. And that we can divide it into, hey, there's one group that's trying to move from 4G winners to 5G leaders. There's another group that's trying to become 5G winners, which hasn't necessarily been part of the ecosystem in the past.